Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you are. My name is Hassan Elkhalil. I am with Elkhalil Law PC, a boutique law firm based in Atlanta, Georgia. We practice in the areas of immigration, business, and international law. Um, and I wanted to take this opportunity to talk to you and answer your questions about mainly diversity visa and specifically about the upcoming results of the diversity visa. The results will come out on May the 7th of this year, which is next month. Um, I wanted to talk to you specifically or answer your questions about what happens after the results are out. Although some of you may have questions about immigration law in general, if you do have any questions about immigration law in general, you are very welcome to ask your question. If you ask me your question in Arabic, I will answer in Arabic. If you ask me your question in English, I will answer in English. But when you ask your question, please make sure give me enough information so I can answer your question properly. One and two, please keep the question in general so everybody online can benefit from this session and from the information that we are providing. This video session, again, it is for the purpose of information. We wanted to give you information. We wanted to educate you about the process, about what to expect and what not to expect when the results are out. And also, I wanted to make sure that everyone understands that this is not a specific legal advice for a specific situation. For your specific case, we highly recommend that you consult with your immigration attorney who is qualified to answer your questions, because as many of you know, immigration law is constantly changing, and the processing time of your case and or the requirement for your case, although in general they may look the same, but immigration law, the processing times are very specific to your case. And immigration law, because it is complicated, and because any little mistake in immigration law, it will cost you a lot more time and a lot more money. And if the case on diversity visa, it may cost you the opportunity to immigrate to the United States, which we will explain why and how. So this is, again, the second point is I wanted to make sure that everyone understands that this session is for general, educational, and information session. And again, I would like to focus our discussion on a diversity visa. And again, if you have any questions about the diversity visa, you can go ahead and feel free to post your questions, and we will try to answer as many questions as we possibly can. First, before we start discussing the diversity visa and the results of the diversity visa, and what do you need to do after you are selected. Before we start, I wanted to wish all of you the best of luck, really. And I hope you will be selected wherever you are around the world. I wanted to wish you the best of luck. Second, let's say you are selected and you are one of the winners of the lottery visa. And you are wondering, what happens next? What do I need to do next? Before I tell you what happens next and what do you need to do next, I would like you to be aware of the scammers and the emails that you may have received or you may receive. Um, Many private companies and many scammers will send in emails, and normally these emails states that you won, your application is approved, you need to pay this much money so we can process your application, and or many people will tell you, or many of these emails or maybe sometimes phone calls will tell you, you need to pay us this much, we guarantee the process, we can do this and that for you. You need to be very, very aware of these emails and or the unsolicited phone calls. The State Department, uh, the only entity or the only website that you can go online and check the status of your entry, which means it is your responsibility to go online to the State Department website and check whether you were selected or not. If you are selected, there is a confirmation page, and in this confirmation page, it will give you the instruction for the following steps. What do you need to do next? The only payments that you're supposed to make is to the National Visa Center website, the visa fee. Of course, unless if you have an attorney to help you with the process, that would be a completely different case. But any other third person, uh, other than an attorney, of course, you should not trust or pay them any money, because again, to enter the diversity visa is free, and to process the immigrant visa after you are selected, the fees are well known, and you can pay them, and you should pay them only on NVC, the National Visa Center website. The State Department and or US embassies around the world do not send emails, do not send you an email to let you know that you are selected or you won or your application is approved. They don't do that. It is your responsibility to go online and check the status of your case. If in case you lost your confirmation number, uh, because some companies, if you hired a company or if you paid a fee for a company to file, to enter your information, and they are holding your confirmation number, if you are registered and or if you entered your information back in October, you can go online and enter your information, your personal information, and you can retrieve your confirmation number. And of course, you can use this confirmation number to find out whether you were selected or not. After you are selected and after you are very careful about the fraud issue, you have to be very careful who you speak with and or who you pay money to. You go online and then you pay the fees and you start the immigrant visa process. Now, the selection process is, of course, most of you know that there are 50,000 visas available for diversity visa. Not one country at any given time, according to the law today, is allowed to receive more than 7% of the 50,000 visas available. Accordingly, when the State Department make the selection, they make a lot more than the 50. Sometimes they make 75, sometimes 100. It really depends on, what, no one really knows the number. Most of the time say that they select 100,000. And then the application process starts. It's first come, mainly it's like first come, first serve, because out of the first 50,000 that they are selected, many of them do not immigrate to the United States, and or many of them do not start the process and sometimes do not start the process on time. And sometimes, even if they start the process and they go through the process, they do not qualify, they're not eligible. Even if someone is selected, and then you pay the fees and then you start the immigration process, this does not mean that this person, with his family, of course, if he included his family in the entry, does not mean that immigrant visa is guaranteed. What it means, you are selected and you can start the process. You can only get the immigrant visa if you are eligible, and you have to be eligible. And when I say eligible, it means that you need to be, you need to have clear records. You need to have, um, uh, uh, you need to have a criminal background and security background. In other words, in your home country, even in your home country, you should not have any criminal records, and you should not cause any security issue to the United States, and that's why you go through background check, and the background check may take some time, um, and sometimes it takes 1 month, 2 months, sometimes it takes 2, 3 months, um, and of course you have to have a sponsor. The U.S. government wanted to make sure that when you immigrate to the United States, you are not burdened, you are not public burden on the U.S. government. So if you qualify and if you meet all of these requirements, you will receive an immigrant visa, and of course you come into the United States. The United States government does not pay for your travel ticket to the United States. Now, if and when the embassies around the world process the first 50,000 visas, they close the program. Even if they are selected more than 50,000, the remaining, let's say 25 or 50 or whatever number, they just cannot immigrate to the United States because there are no visas available for them. When someone is selected, this someone has only 1 year to apply for his immigrant visa. But we normally recommend that as soon as you know that you are selected, to immediately start the process. Although you may start the process early, as soon as you can, most interviews for the immigrant visa for this type of category starts October 1st of each year. I want to stop here my thoughts, and I have a question from Fawzia. Thank you, Fawzia, for your question. My mother is divorced, has a girl and a teenage boy. In case she wins the American lottery, how to advise her? Thanks. If I understand your question correctly, I'm assuming that your mother, when she filed, she was divorced, and she included the children and the children under the age of 21 and they are not married. She included them in her application. If she included them in her application, they can immigrate with her. If she did not include the children in her application, it means she is disqualified, and I'm sorry to say that. The second question, do European citizens have the right to move to the US, live permanently? From Aziz Ziani. Thank you, Aziz, for your question. Anyone, if qualified and if eligible, can move to the United States and live permanently. Of course, there are many ways for someone to move to the United States. The most popular is through family immigration. If you have a family petition pending or you have a family member in the United States, depends on whose family member, you can file your petition, your immigration petition through this family member and immigrate to the United States. Now, the other option, of course, there is an investment visa. Investment visa, if someone comes into the United States and invests an amount of $500,000 and maybe $1 million, $500,000 in very restricted areas, yes, you can start the process of immigrating to the United States. And of course, there are many other ways. It depends on your personal and specific situation. Normally, in a situation like this, what we do, we interview, of course, our clients, and then we ask specific questions, and then based on the answers that we receive, we tailor a solution or options. We discuss these options, we present these options, and then we decide which option is better for our client, and then we move forward accordingly. In short, to answer your questions, there are ways, yes, for not only European citizens, for many. The only exception for European citizens is certain countries in Europe, they have an agreement with the United States, which they can enter the United States without a visa, and we call it visa waiver. And they can stay in the United States for a period of 90 days, and they have to leave within 90 days. And it's with very exceptional situation, they can remain and adjust their status in the United States. But in general, the visa waiver, they have to stay no more than 90 days, and they have to leave the United States. So these are the questions I have. I don't have any more questions right now. I want to go back to the diversity visa, and we talked about the selection. After the selection, what happens? And we talk about the fraud, and then the selection. After the selection, so you receive the email, congratulations, you were selected, and now what? What do I do now? What do you do now? Normally, again, when you go to the website, to the confirmation page, and you are selected, normally there's a list of, they will tell you, the National Visa Center, there's a list of steps that you need to take in order to start the process. Some of these steps, of course, you have to pay the visa fee, and then you have to start to prepare some documents. And these documents includes personal information about you and your family, photos. Sometimes you need a sponsor. You need to get a criminal background check. And then, of course, you have to go through what we call extreme vetting in certain situation. Extreme vetting means that the U.S. government wanted to make sure that you do not cause any danger to the United States. Mainly, that's security background check. Once you go through this process, and you normally can upload most of these supporting documents to the NVC, National Visa Center website. And most of the documents that you obtain, it's, of course, if it is in your home country language or in your language, whether it is Arabic, Spanish, or Vietnamese, or any other language, any document you submit to the National Visa Center, it must be translated to English. When I say it must be translated, because I understand in some countries, foreign countries, they like the stamps. They like to stamp everything. They like to notarize everything. They like to certify everything. For the translation, anyone can translate a document as long as the translation is legible and clear to the consular officer to understand. Now, you know, if someone wanted to do it himself, you can. It's not recommended, but you can, as long as you make a statement on the bottom, and this statement to say that I certify to the best of my knowledge that the translation from Arabic to English in this document are true and correct, and then you sign it. It should be okay. Because we receive so many questions from many of our clients. Should we notarize it somewhere? Should we take it to the embassy? Should we take it to the foreign ministry, to interior ministry, justice ministry, whatever? I really don't think you need to do that. It is not necessary unless the consular officer asks you specifically about certain documents from certain department for very specific reason. So after you submit your documents and you are ready for interview, the U.S. Embassy in your home country will send you a notice via email most of the time to let you know that on this date and that date you have an interview notice. And then to prepare for the interview, I always advise our clients when you go to the interview, I will always like you to take with you most of the original documents you uploaded to the National Visa Center. And the reason for that, not only because they don't have copy of it, of the documents, and not only because you need it, but only to make the process faster. Take all the original documents with you just to be on the safe side. Take additional photos just to be on the safe side. Take the original documents and take one copy with you. And then after you go to the interview, you need to prepare for the interview, and you need to understand that this interview is treated as a business meeting. Of course, you need to dress up and you need to be ready for the meeting. And again, consider it as a business meeting. You go into the meeting and then answer the question asked. Be cordial to the consular officer, answer his or her questions. And you have to understand in this situation, if you are entitled to a visa, the consular officer job is to process your visa. And the consular officer can deny your visa if you do not qualify and or if you are not eligible. So be cordial, be respectful, just say what you need to say, answer the questions, and allow the officer to review your file or answer your questions. And then, the interview will be over. Sometimes interview, it takes 10 minutes. Sometimes interview, it takes um, um, maybe 30 minutes. It really depends. If there is one person, if there are 4 or 5 people, it really depends. After the interview, they will give you your visa, hopefully, and then you start the process to the immigration process to the United States, or the transition to your new life, to your new adopted country. And it's an exciting time for many people. At this stage, I always tell my clients, before you move to the United States, and before you select at what state you wanted to come in, I highly recommend that you do your research and you do your, when I say you do your research, you do your homework, of course, and you wanted to know what state you wanted to go to, where do you want it to live, why do you want it to go there, schools, is the school district good, are schools in this district is good, is job opportunities, living expenses, do you have a family members there, do you have relatives there, do you like the weather, do you not like the weather, do you like the beach, do you like the mountains. In the United States, we are blessed with many different the United States is a huge country. The United States is a huge country, and then you can pick and choose what you want. But you need to know what is good for you and what is good for your family. Based on that, you can go ahead and select the state that you and your family are comfortable with. We have a question from Mr. Yahya. My sister has expired green card 10 years ago. What's the best way to her to come to the United States? Well, I'm assuming that your sister, based on, if I understand your question correctly, your sister has been outside of the United States for a long period of time. Anytime someone is outside, has a green card, and remains outside of the United States for more than 1 year, then this person green card is considered as abandoned, which means cannot use this green card to come back into the United States. Many people will have the physical card in their possession, but that does not mean that he or she maintains that legal status. To answer your question, if your sister has been outside of the United States for more than 1 year, most likely she lost her status in the United States. If she has, if her husband is a US citizen, or if she has someone here and she wishes to come back to the United States, she needs to start the process all over again. Now, having said that, if there is a valid reason, and this valid reason may be sickness, maybe family emergency, there, you know, again, this is case specific. There may be a chance that she can maintain her green card, but again, it's very unlikely that this will happen. Thank you again for your question, and I hope that helps. Fawzia, again, the best states to live in America for a small family. Again, Fawzia, I said this is something that you have to do your own research. It depends on what do you like, what do you don't like. I like Atlanta, Georgia. I like Georgia. I think it's very nice. My family is here. We have been here in Atlanta, Georgia for the last 26 years. Weather is good. Community is very good. We have a lovely weather. Taxes are not as bad. We don't have hurricanes. We don't have earthquakes. We're close to everything. We have international airport. I'm not selling Atlanta, but I like Atlanta. So again, you need to do your own research to find which state is best for you and your family. We have another question. I am a US citizen. I applied for my brother. It has been 13 years now. And the question is, 13, do you have any idea if this kind of immigration is still available? Yes, it is still available. Yes, a brother can still apply for a brother. A brother can apply for a sister. A sister can still apply for a sister or brother. As of today, this law is still valid and you still can apply. Now, although the processing times, last I checked a couple of days ago, it states that it is the waiting time is 13 years. From practice perspective, I think the waiting time from brother to brother or brother to sister is about 17, 18, 20 years. So you just have to wait for as long as your application is pending. Even if the law changes, you will still get your visa. Another question is, Najla, هل هناك معايير تخص لإجراء قرعة الهجرة؟ وشكرا على هذا البث المباشر. Okay. Yes, there are. I'm going to answer you in Arabic, Najla. I don't know what, يعني ما بعرف شو اللي سؤالك اللي عم بقول إنه معايير يتخذونها، بس مثل ما قلت لك أنا إنه عادة هن في 50,000 فيزا موجودين. هن لما بيعملوا السحب بيسحبوا، أو لما بينقوا 100,000 واحد عادة. ليه؟ لأنه أكثر الناس أول 50 ما بيقدموا على الفيزا أو ما بياخذوا الفيز تاعتهم. سو حتى ما يروحوا هول الفيز دعان، شو بيعملوا؟ بينقوا أكثر، بياخذوا أول يعني بياخذوا لنقول من أول 50,000 نقوا بس لنقول 30,000 واحد. هلا ال 20,000 التانيين بياخذوهم من ال 50 التانيين بناء على الأولوية تاعت الرقم لما نقوهم. إن شاء الله أكون جاوبتك على هذا السؤال. وش اسمه، يعني إذا أنت كنت مقدمة أو حدا بتعرفيه أو حدا من عائلتك مقدمين، إن شاء الله بالتوفيق يا رب، وإن شاء الله بكون حظك من الناجحين أو من اللي تنقوهم يعني. I'm planning to move. عندنا سؤال كمان هون. I'm planning to move to Europe. Well, that's the question. If you are planning to move to Europe, we wish you the best of luck and good luck. If this is okay. في عندي معتز فخري يسألني I have a question about applying for citizenship N400 application. That's where I got my green card on 7/13 and stayed for only 2 months from 7/1/7/9. Traveled back to Egypt from 9/13 to 100. Stayed in the U.S. Um, this is very specific information and the dates, and I don't have the time really to go over the dates. Vacation less than 2 weeks. Can I apply for citizenship? And the best way I can answer your question, Martaz, is if what I want you to do is to take, for as long as you did not stay outside of the United States for more than 6 months, and then in the last 5 years, you stayed in the United States, half of this period, which means I always tell my clients 3 years out of the last 5 years. Because believe it or not, most of my clients, they follow me on the day. And believe it or not, the law, yes. Sometimes you may qualify or disqualify because you missed 1 day. But in general, what I tell people, count the last 5 years. In the last 5 years, did you have or were you present in the United States for more than 3 years? If yes, go ahead and apply. If you did not, you really need to look at your application closely, and you, especially if you stayed outside of the United States for more than 6 months. If you stayed outside of the United States for more than 6 months, what you wanted to do is count the last time you enter, from the last time you entered the United States, where you stayed more than 6 months, you count 4 years and 1 day, and then you apply. Even with that, when you go to your citizenship interview, you still have to answer why you stayed outside of the United States for more than 6 months. Good luck. وبالتوفيق إن شاء الله. Another question, how much it takes to remove green card for 2 years, please, and when can I apply for citizenship? Okay. Normally, when you first receive your conditional green card, you receive the conditional green card for a period of 2 years. 3 months before the second anniversary, which means 3 months before the expiration of your green card, you can file, it's called Form I-751, to remove the conditional residency. At this point, I want everybody to know, anytime you deal with immigration, anytime you wanted to send supporting documents to the immigration, make sure that you organize your file, make sure to send the more required or supporting documents you can send, the better you are. So having said that, from the day you file to remove the conditional residency, Form I-751, normally within maybe few months, 3, 4, 5 weeks, it really depends on the processing time, you will receive a receipt notice. In this receipt notice, they will automatically extend your green card for a period of 1 year. So your status will be extended as a conditional green card for 1 more year until enough time for the USCIS to process your application. If this 1 year expires, then you can have an appointment, and then at any USCIS office, it's InfoPass appointment, and you can schedule the appointment. You can go to uscis.gov and then schedule InfoPass appointment, take the receipt notice, and they stamp your passport or the receipt notice for an additional 1 year. The processing time for 751, it really depends on where you live. It differs from one state to another. But on average, we tell our clients today they have to plan around 2 years. Now, if from the time you received your green card, the conditional green card, and you have 3 years, then what we normally do, this is being pretty much like progressive. We file for citizenship. If we do that, we will force the USCIS to process not only your citizenship application, but the I-751 at the same time. This is not recommended for anyone to do it. This is case specific, and this only immigration attorneys can help you determine whether it's a good idea for you to do that or not. Good luck, Najla, and I think we have another question. Let me see. اوكي نجلة اوكي شكرا واضح الخدمة يحتاجون أغلبية المهاجرين جزاكم الله اوكي thank you نجلة Aziz Zaini okay we have another question okay who qualifies for a waiver for the citizenship application what is needed to be done to get the waiver well thank you for your question I really don't know what you mean by a waiver everybody has to go through the test and the English and history test. Uh, there are exceptions, and these exceptions it depends on the age of the applicant and how long they had the green card. If someone had a green card for let's say 20 years and they don't speak English, uh, normally there's an exception to a person like this. But again, there are many exceptions. But to answer your questions, there are no waivers. Everyone has to go through the same process, the testing. Sorry, the testing process. Another question, a green card holder for how long can apply for citizenship? Okay, if you have a green card based on marriage to the United States citizen, you can apply after you are having the green card for a period of 3 years, while of course married to the US citizen. If you have a green card and you are not married to US citizen, let's say you won the lottery, you immigrate to the United States, you enter the airport, they give you your green card. From that day, you will count 5 years, and then you can apply for your citizenship. The 5 years, you can apply for your citizenship 3 months before your visa is, before your green card, I mean, before the 5th anniversary to apply for your citizenship. Um, uh, I have another question is a waiver of the application fees. Um, you can file a waiver for the application fees or the USCIS fees. Anyone can do that. But our experience tells us that this is very, um, um, it's a lengthy process. It takes longer. It delays the processing of your application longer than usual. They may require more documents from you to show that you are not able to to pay the USCIS fees. We don't recommend that to our clients. We always tell them work hard. Let's wait a little longer. Once you have the fee available, we'll go ahead and file your application. So again, it's anyone can apply. Yes, it is available, but please keep in mind if you use it, um, you have to plan that the processing of your application is going to take a little longer. And then another question: do you have a clean record to apply for citizenship? Yes. Do you have to have a clean record? Yes. You must have clean record, and I don't know what you mean by a clear record. But let me tell you, what do you need to apply for citizenship? First, in order to apply for citizenship, you have to be a person of good moral character. The government normally determines whether you're a person of good moral character if you file for your taxes. It is okay if you owe taxes, but you have an agreement with the IRS or you have a payment plan. As long as you are attending to your responsibilities, you are okay for the person of good moral character. Additionally, you wanted to make sure that you do not have a criminal records. Many people they just take things for granted sometimes, and they do not know that here in the U.S. Everything is documented and everything can be discovered in no time. Uh, in certain countries, there are no records. Even if someone commits felony or commits a crime, If they move from one state to another, the new state do not know if the criminal status of this person. In the United States, uh, we have a system that if someone commits a crime or even a violation anywhere in the United States, the USCIS will know. So you have to have very, very clear and clean record, no criminal records whatsoever. Even sometimes traffic violations may affect your citizenship. Because of that, if someone has any violations, I highly recommend that this someone, before filing your citizenship application, to consult with an immigration attorney and to scrutinize your case before you submit your application. This is this is serious, and again, many people take it for granted. So you don't ever want it to be in a situation where you are applying to obtain your citizenship and you find yourself fighting to keep your green card. And believe me, this thing happens, and it happens every time. Only because, while I understand people don't know, um, it's just they need to do their homework before they submit the M400 application. Another point that I'd like to mention at this point, we progressed in the recent years from a period of not enough information online, and thanks, of course, to the internet and online information, we reached to a point of too much information. And because there are too much information, many people do not know how to handle this information and what to do with this information. And many of our clients, instead of before, of course, they came to us, or before they come to us, many of our clients, instead of asking an immigration attorney about their immigration case, what they do, they go and ask their friends and relatives and a neighbor. I wanted to do this. And then, of course, everyone thinks that they know the law, and everyone thinks that they know how immigration works, and they think only in immigration law you just file applications and that's it. And this is not really the case. Even if someone is about medicine, no one operates on himself or herself, only because it just doesn't work that way, especially when it comes to immigration law. Immigration law is very complicated area of the law, and it is constantly changing. Even in our practice, on daily basis, we check for any new law, we check any new changes, we check to stay up to date on what is happening, because if we miss anything, it will affect a big portion of our clientele, and we don't want it to do that. We have a question. Can you please give advice on how to make a successful application for a waiver for the exchange visitor to your home country physical presence requirement? Well, on this is, you are referring to a J visa, and the J visa, when your J visa is issued, depends on the on your government and or the entity that sponsored you. They will have restriction on your visa or not. Now, if there are 2 years restriction, and you are required to leave the United States and stay outside of the United States for 2 years before you are able to come back to the United States and sorry, and adjust your status and continue your life in the United States. Now, yes, there is an exemption. Yes, there is a waiver, but the waiver depends on, again, on your specific situation, depends on your government relationship with you or government contract with you, and or most likely we've seen kind of trend of these cases when someone enters the United States on J visa for the sole purpose of research, and normally a private company is the sponsor. And in this case, most of the new private companies, if they are the sponsors, it is difficult for us to get the waiver from the private companies. And sometimes we are able to do that. Sometimes we succeed, but it will cost you so much money to pay the expenses that this private entity paid on your behalf while you are in the United States. I don't think that's I hope this is not the case in your case, and I hope you have a contract probably with your company, with your government, because it's much easier for us to get the waiver from your government, especially if you get married to a citizen or if there is another a valid application. We can make a good argument in changing your status while in the United States and get the waiver for the 2 years residency. So these are the questions that we have. I have probably a few minutes left. Within these few minutes, I wanted to continue to talk to you about the United States and the transitional period to the United States. Again, I probably answered this question indirectly. One of the listeners asked me this question. United States is a big country, and you just have to do your own homework and do your own research to pick the state and then decide. Of course, you pick the state based on many factors, and these factors are personal. What do you like? What do you don't like? Regarding the weather, the schools, the children, the living expenses, housing, taxes. There are many reasons or many issues that you really need to study and you need to research in order to make your selection. Another point that I would like all of the newcomers to consider. We've seen most of the newcomers, because they are not accustomed to the way we work and to the way we live in the United States. The tax issue in the United States is a major issue. It may have a complete implication on your future taxes and or your financial standing in the United States. As a result, we highly recommend that as soon as someone immigrates to the United States, and sometimes before you immigrate to the United States, of course, in the same way as you consult with an attorney because of your legal or business matter, we highly encourage you to consult with a CPA who can advise you on the tax consequences before you immigrate and after you immigrate. Because if someone is with a high profile wealth-wise, and you do not do your homework, the tax system will penalize you big time, and you need to be very, very careful, and you need to do homework. So this way you will not end up in a situation like that. So this is the transition, and of course, after you enter the United States, you get your green card with your family. You would have to wait 5 years before you can apply for citizenship. During this 5 years, of course, you wanted to live and work in the United States, and you need to file your taxes. And then from the day you enter the United States, you have your green card. If you decide you wanted to travel outside of the United States, you can, for as long as you do not stay outside of the United States for a period of more than 6 months at a time. When I say you cannot stay outside of the United States for a period of more than 6 months at a time, it does not mean that you go to your home country, stay 6 months, you come back here, stay 1 week, and then you go back there, stay 6 months. That is not the case. If you do that maybe 2-3 times, that would be a red flag. And probably they will stop you at the airport, and then in certain cases they may take your green card, send you back, or give you a visitor visa, allow you to enter, or they may refer you to immigration court. A condition when someone receives his or her green card is to live and work in the United States. So when you live and work in the United States, of course, you have a house, you have a car, you have insurance, you have health insurance, car insurance, you go to school, you work, you live a normal life in the United States. If you don't have those, and you keep traveling in and out, that does not really help your case to maintain your green card and or apply for citizenship in the future. Um, Forgive me one second. So these are the questions and the regarding the diversity visa. Now, the second point that I wanted to talk about before we conclude the session is people are asking me, when can I apply again? Normally, you can apply for diversity visa in October of every year, and then the results for each October comes like 2 years ahead. If you apply, let's say in October 2019, the results will come out sometimes in 2020. No, 2021, I'm sorry. Again, before you apply, don't take anything for granted. Do not consider that whatever the rules were last year, it will be the same rule. The rules change. It may not change drastically, but I highly recommend, before you even enter your information, is to prepare your application, take your photo, make sure that you have everything you need, and then be prepared when you go online. You can file your application and you can have a session, one session. You cannot save your application. You cannot say, I will continue later. If you start your application, you have to start your application and you have to finish it in one session. And normally, if you are recorded, if you are registered, you will receive confirmation. If you do not receive confirmation, it means that your application is not registered. You need to keep trying until you receive the confirmation. And one more thing about the registration. Normally, again, it starts in October. I think this year it starts on October 3rd, 2019. And then you have one full month in order to prepare and file your application. We always tell our clients to prepare their supporting documents. When I say supporting documents, I mean your visa. I mean your photos and your family, your spouse photo, your children under the age of 21 who are not married. Prepare all of these applications, have them set in the file on your desktop, and then start the application session, file it, and of course we wish you the best of luck moving forward with the selection process. In a nutshell, this is what we wanted to say about the diversity visa. And again, if you are one of the selectees this year, we wish you the best of luck. And we encourage you to, if you don't know anything about the process, to seek the assistance of an immigration attorney. If you think you can handle the process yourself, be very careful, be very detailed, and make sure that you give the information requested. Read a lot of information, read the instruction, so this way you will not make any mistake. Because if you make a mistake, you may lose your chance to immigrate. You may to the U.S. You may lose your visa, and also you may not have enough time to complete the process, and you will lose your chance to come into the United States. That's why anytime when you are dealing with immigration, and when I say immigration, the National Visa Center, the embassies are included. When you are dealing with immigration, preparation is very, very helpful, is very important, and it's very you just have to be very careful. Give them what they need, give them more than what they need as far as supporting documents, and I'm hopefully everything will be okay for you. If you are not one of the selectees, if you are not selected this May 7th, it is okay. It's part of life. And then what you can do, you can wait until October and then file again, try in October. If your situation allows, or if you wanted to discuss other options, you may be eligible for other options. You may have other options, or you may have other ways for you to immigrate with your family to the United States. Again, this is case specific. I highly recommend that you consult with an immigration attorney for your specific case, and then with your immigration attorney, you will explore the options, your options, and then you will come up with a plan. And in this plan, of course, you will decide whether you can come into the United States um, and start your life here. I have a question: is how can we schedule for an online one-on-one meeting with you? Uh, Again, we are an immigration law firm. We are based in Atlanta, Georgia. Our phone number is 770-612-3499. Again, our phone number is 770-612-3499. You can visit us online and you can schedule an appointment online. You can reach us online. You can go to our website. It is www.elkhalillaw.com. Elkhalil is ELKHALILLAW.com. Elkhalillaw.com. On our website, there are many information that can help you. It has our contact information. It has a lot of information that can help you to reach us. If you select and if you think that we are a good help for you, we will be happy to explore the options that you may have, and we'll be happy to be of assistance. Again, I wanted to conclude this session by wishing everybody the best of luck. بالتوفيق إن شاء الله للكل for this May the 7th. وإن شاء الله الكل يكونوا ربحانين. If you think we can help you in any way, please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach us again at 770-612-3499. And if you are calling from outside the United States, don't forget to put the country code. The country code is +1, and then our phone number, which is 770-612-3499. Or you can visit us at elkhalillaw.com. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your attention, and wait for us for many more sessions to come on many different immigration subjects. Thank you, and you have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.